Hey everybody, Jason Bermas here, and what you're about to watch is a part from a great panel with the Union of the Unwanted. We talk fake news, the Trump administration, Epstein, and beyond. You're not going to want to miss it. Buckle up and get ready to make sense of the madness.
Have you guys heard about the European blackout that just happened?
Yeah, it was a big
Yeah.
story in the beginning of the day, and initially they said it was from a weather outage. Obviously, now it seems like they're going to play up this cyber attack thing. For years, I've been saying that there's no reason for any type of critical infrastructure in any type of society to be online. The fact that, they've been hyping this up, and when I say they, World Economic Forum, the DoD, cybersecurity firms, intelligence agencies, for really well over a decade now. And now it's happened in the very place where they probably have the most control over the power grid already, policy-wise, aka Europe, is extremely suspicious to me. And obviously is something that we need to look at. But I hope this encourages people not to fall for, we need the government to do something. No, we need to restrict the government from doing anything in regards to streamlining the process of leaving this infrastructure online.
My guess would be that most of the utilities are already nationalized in much of Europe, so getting the government out of the way is going to be a major challenge. This actually reminds me of the Butler attack on Trump, where it's like the Secret Service is so incompetent, like that you can't differentiate between incompetence and malice. That's the same way it feels with Europe with their electricity issues. It's like, well, sure, it could be a cyber attack, it could be a false flag, or it could be that you guys have taken offline all of your all of your power factories. So any of the above at this point, I feel pity for the Europeans, and we're not far behind them, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I was leaving the office and my mother was like watching Portuguese Noticias news because she's Portuguese and she doesn't speak any English, so that's what she watches. And she's like, "Hey, you hear about the power outage in Europe?" And she's like, "Portugal, France, Spain, all the planes are, basically on the ground, everything kind of is at a standstill." So I've been running around since, so I wasn't sure how serious it was, but it did make me think about like, okay, maybe this is nothing, but eventually something like this could happen. And, with all the AI conversations and really just sparking how much control these big tech companies have of every system everywhere, it is a little scary because little by little we just keep moving towards cars being controlled by computers, everything being controlled by computers. I mean, eventually our houses are going to be controlled by computers where, you go in your house, it knows when you shower or when you have a coffee and it starts making it, maybe it's a little Black Mirror-esque, in regards to that. Maybe we're a little, away from that, but I don't know. Things have been advancing so quickly, even AI videos, AI pictures, everything's like just, I mean, I feel like it was just yesterday. Everything kind of sucked, and you could kind of tell what sucked and what was real and what wasn't. And now, little by little, we're getting to the point where I'm like, okay, this is kind of progressing a little faster than I thought. I mean, I knew it was going to be quick. I didn't, but it's getting to the point where like by 2026, what is the world going to look like? I'm not thinking like 2030 or 2040. I'm thinking like 2026. Anybody?
Did you see the video of the twins in New Zealand during that newscast where they start to speak in unison?
No.
Okay. It's a hilarious clip. It's been going super viral. Anyways, they're being interviewed about some robbery or something, and they start to basically complete each other's sentences and go back and forth. But they're twins, and they're talking almost perfectly in sync. I could have sworn it was AI because it has to be AI. There's no way they could actually speak like that. Allegedly, it's not AI. So I'm going the opposite direction. I can't figure out, reality is so screwed up. I have no idea how to differentiate at this point. And I think it's only going to get worse from here. Like there was another one where the attack in, I think it was Pakistan, or maybe it was India, but there's a guy on a zip line today that's going super viral. And as he's got this, GoPro stick that he's holding up and he's smiling all big, and there's people just dropping dead behind him left and right because they're getting gunned down. And I'm like, there's no way this is real. But I think it is. So at this point, it's impossible to differentiate.
Can I ask you guys a question real quick? what Clint just described there, are you guys like sad about it? Because I'm like kind of fucking giddy. I enjoy, I personally enjoy the chaos. It's like I don't know what's real anymore. I'm doing my best to contribute as much fake news as possible to make shit like as weird and unpredictable as Like we're headed towards something very strange, right? Like I don't know where the end goal is, but I just feel like adding as much chaos possible is like maybe that's like what what we're supposed to be doing
This
here.
is the doom you've been waiting for. So many people have been waiting for doom. It's not an asteroid, but yeah, I mean, I hadn't heard about the power outages in Europe, but that's a little scary. My daughter is flying to London later this week, so I hope, that makes you think. But a lot of people have predicted that here. I mean, how many times have we heard, that we're going to have power outages here? I've heard it many, many times, right? And if they did, God, just look at Americans. Look at anybody under 30 to be polite. I mean, they literally would probably just lay down and die if they just keep, pressing the buttons on their cell phone if the cell towers weren't working. So I mean, we'd like The Walking Dead. So and I hope they don't do something like that because I'm tied into the. I have a generator, but I don't know how good that would be. But so this was just today the power outage. I didn't hear anything.
Yeah,
about
this
this.
Yeah, it was
morning.
like 5
Well,
different countries. It's insane.
Yeah, and I'd say what was it? It was probably about 7 a.m. Central Time, so like 8 a.m. Eastern Time. It started to get reported. So it's been going on all day. That infrastructure, like I said, we don't know when it's going to be back in. Let me just say this on a couple of the points here. Number one, welcome to the post-truth world. We've been in it for some time. Now it's just an acceleration. And number two, let me just say I'm at the complete opposite end of the spectrum as to trying to add to the chaos and feed into the fake news arena. And, that's why I think I want to start with this story, which is huge, is obviously the Virginia Giuffre Roberts suicide, that everybody out of hand is dismissing any possibility she may have killed herself or any of the other things that may be going on. I think that's really dumb. Number one, we don't even know how the suicide occurred other than she was found on the property by her family. So in other words, we don't know whether she hung herself, shot herself, took meds, etc. What we do know is that in the beginning of the month, and a lot of people are quoting this bus accident as if they know what happened. They don't. I've done the research. There's nothing secret about this other than the fact that Virginia Giuffre Roberts might not have even been in that accident and posted that picture. So what do I mean by that? So the day after it came out where that post comes up, and she says that she just posted to her private Facebook and didn't mean it to go out. Number one, the picture, she was pretty roughed up, right?
Yeah,
But what people didn't focus on is that she talked about just wanting to see her children one last time and that she had 4 days to live with renal failure.
Right.
A lot of people don't realize that Virginia Giuffre Roberts escaped Epstein with one of his employees. They were together for 22 plus years and are going through a terrible divorce. He has custody of their 3 children. Now, one of them is now 19 and an adult, but the other 2 are 15 and 16. So they're estranged from her at this point. Now, all I'm saying is that women go nuts when they don't have their kids. All right? And so why am I even questioning whether she was in that accident? Start with the fact that there was no police report in the beginning. And why wasn't there a police report? Number one, it's on a rural road outside of Melbourne. Like, there's no way it could have been a major crash. The bus driver got out and had an interaction with the woman who was driving. The woman who was driving basically she's like in her 60s, tends to Virginia Giuffre Roberts' multi-million-dollar estate. So it's like a $1.3 million estate. She won an undisclosed amount of money from Prince Andrew. People that are sharing that meme, that quote from her about not committing suicide, I'd love to point out that's from 2019, just before she was in that lawsuit, basically the trial that got that undisclosed amount of money. And at that time, she was literally being tended to by security and in an area where she was behind all sorts of walls. So she was, at that time period, literally protecting herself and making sure everybody knew she wasn't suicidal. This is long before the kids thing. So let's throw in the domestic abuse, that she doesn't have the kid, that she might not even be at that accident. So why do I think that? That guy has no recollection that there was any woman in the passenger seat that Virginia supposedly was. And then there was no police report because it was under $2,000 in damage, and it was just a taillight. There's no damage to the car. You can actually see the car after the fact. All this is online. Daily Mail's done stories on it, even with the woman. Now, even weirder is if you get in a fender bender like that, do you pick up all the pieces of your broken taillight and keep them? So she did. She kept them. Obviously, Virginia Giuffre Roberts did not go into renal failure. So what do I think the possibilities are here? All right, I think there's a very real possibility. She got depressed. She's a multi-rape victim. This other guy may have roughed her up. This is a guy she's been with 20 plus years. She may have done that. There's also the very real possibility that maybe somebody on the inside offed her just because of that dispute or money. She's a millionaire plus, etc. There's that possibility. There's the real possibility that maybe she was killed because they thought she was going to say more. Although I would say this, most of her stuff is in the public arena. So the vast majority of what she said, her being somebody who's been working with the Daily Mail literally for over decades, and Brad Edwards winning against Epstein in that civil suit, a lot of that was Virginia Giuffre Roberts documentation. That's already out there. All right? Now, here's the hopium. All right? And this is big time hopium. I don't necessarily think this is happening, but let's hope for a little bit. If, in fact, they're actually going to do something with these Epstein documents, all right, the reality is you've got videotapes, you've got hard drives, you've got burned discs, you've got binders of photographs and those discs of the victims and the people that victimized them. You can't put that stuff out if there's criminals. No one's going to stand for some billionaire, no matter how old they are, if there's videos of them, having their way with kids. Period. So you would need to, number one, start not just an investigation, but then in an indictment. You would need to go to trial. And then during that trial and then after the results of that trial, that's when you could release that documentation. We're talking years and years and years. So what would that have to do with Giuffre Roberts? Maybe the off chance she's in witness protection somewhere. And that's a big off chance. I will say this. She was the most vocal person against Jean-Luc Brunel. Jean-Luc Brunel had criminal charges brought against him. He was in Paris during that trial, and he killed himself in prison. Now, a lot of people, again, discount that Brunel killed himself. All I'm saying is if you got a guy like Brunel that's used to having his way, and all of a sudden you put him in a cell with two dudes that maybe aren't the greatest people and maybe are doing things to him night in and night out, there's also the possibility that you've tortured the guy so much that you leave the room and you say, hey, you got a couple hours to yourself, make a decision. You know what I mean? People get manipulated into suicide as well, It's not
Jason.
just a, hey, we're just going to take this person out, make them look like suicide. They torture people, period. I mean, the Epstein
ask you a
case,
question,
obviously,
Jason?
you've got two different instances. There's a lot there. But I'm just saying, people who think they know what just happened with Virginia Giuffre Roberts and aren't looking at all the evidence, they're not doing themselves any services. And that's kind of what I mean with the chaos. It's a huge story. It's everywhere. It's chaotic. People are just spouting out things without even looking at the baseline evidence.
Jason, let me ask you, because I agree with what you're saying. It's like I don't quite know what to make of it. It's suspicious. From where I'm looking at it, this is very suspicious. But I'm thinking about the right-wing influencers that showed up to the White House with no intention to get those folders. They're paraded out, and there's media just waiting for them. They show up, they take the pictures, they look foolish, and you said, what's the point of this? Why did you do this? And it's almost like there are powers behind the scenes or forces behind the scene that want to continually remind America about this Epstein case, because America will forget. We're like 30 seconds and we're on to the next thing. That's just the truth of the matter. But every couple of weeks or every couple of months, I think weeks at this point, the Epstein stuff is being pushed back at us. And I keep getting the feeling that there's going to be some sort of rollout, and it's like they're preparing people. It's like, well, look, now this lady shows up dead. Now this, like, look at the fake documents here, and everybody gets mad. It's like, what do you think this is leading to? Is this a cover up, or is this like exposure?
I don't know, man. Listen, I am not one of those guys that does not think there's any difference between administrations, right? I think there are subtle differences, but at the same time, on some levels, how far can you go? We just supposedly got all the JFK documents. Obviously, there's some stuff lacking there. I've pointed out, for instance, that the Warren C. DeBrew initial investigation into the JFK assassination, that is 800 pages long and documented by the FBI, was not released. So there are 800 pages that we didn't get. So where are those? And I'm sure there's even more than that. Jim Garrison, in I believe it was like a 1968 Playboy article, referred to documentation he was trying to get via Oswald and this connection to the CIA that he said would not be available till 2038. Okay, so again, we don't have that documentation. Those are things from the 60s. Let's bring it up to like baseline Epstein. One of the big reasons that they will not talk about Epstein and what it's about is he is an arms dealer, and not just for the United States, but Israel. And people do not have an understanding of the Iran-Contra affair, where it wasn't the United States that was buying the weapons. It was actually Israel bought the weapons from Czechoslovakia and Eastern Europe. They would ship them down. Mark Rich was kind of the liaison there. And then the drug money would come up. It was a big plausible deniability circle. Well, remember, Epstein not only has a fake passport, but he's got a Saudi Arabian identity. He's mentored by a guy named Adnan Khashoggi, who's balls deep in Iran-Contra and has his own harem of women. In fact, that's really where he starts this whole network. And by the way, we have a bunch of names. So it's like we don't need more names for the investigation. We have Leslie Groff, Sarah Kellen, Nadia Marcinkova, Sarah Ransom. I keep going. You know, those aren't even victims. Those are literally people that got the sweetheart deal in Palm Beach. When we talk about the Israeli angle, I keep emphasizing this clip, and I'll keep playing it until people pick up on it. The one time Louis Black, who was a comedian, met Epstein at his New York home. Epstein took him aside. He had a big whiteboard. He goes, "Do you know what this is?" Obviously, Black didn't. He goes, "These are defense plans that I was discussing with the Israeli defense minister and their weapons systems." Prince Andrew was the UK's arms dealer. He was involved in all sorts of arms bribery scandals. That's why him and Epstein were so close. So forget about the bribery. Forget about the underage girls. The arms industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry of death. And the last thing, and there's a ton more with Epstein because, again, he's a liaison. He's a transhumanist. He's compromising politicians. He's behind the Clinton Foundation. He's Council on Foreign Relations. He's Trilateral Commission. He's wearing a lot of these hats. But at the end of the day, he's wearing the hat of literally a death minister and a child rapist. And there are many people that also wear those hats that were associated with him in some steps. So I'm not holding my breath, brother. I don't know what they're actually going to be able to do. And the other thing is, a lot of these girls grow up. So in other words, he wasn't just distributing teenage girls. When I talked about like Sarah Kellen and all these people, they get married off to millionaires, billionaires in many cases. They're happy with their spot in the world, or at least happy enough not to come forward and not to want to be involved in the process of prosecuting those they were pimped to for literal, years and years and years. But I'm gonna leave it there and let anybody else jump in.
Yeah, Jason, it's good to see you again, by the way. And you're always interesting. Obviously well informed. I just wrote a Substack article about Virginia Jeffrey, and you obviously know what you're talking about. But it wasn't just Virginia Jeffrey that ended up dead. And as you mentioned, the bus accident, I think, is very crucial here because we don't know what happened there. As you said, she posted an odd selfie. I mean, because she, to be honest with you, she might have been dead in it. She looked kind of like a corpse, and her face was really beaten up. She had a little monitor on her chest that might have been kidneys. I don't know because she was claiming that, but very odd picture. Who posted it? Who took a picture of it? I don't think she could have posted it herself. And that was the beginning of the month. 4 days later, that went away. They said she was crazy and everything. And then she winds up dead. As Jason said, we don't have any details on how it was done. But Virginia wasn't the only one to end up dead. There was a woman, and it looks like Jason's not here, but he probably knows her name. It just escapes me now, but I've written about it. And she was another one of Epstein's girls, and she went on to have a life. She had 5 kids. She wound up dying of a supposed overdose. I'm sure Jason probably knows who this is, in a hotel room. And she was naked with 5 kids and her husband in a hotel room, and they claimed she took an overdose. And her mother vehemently denied this. Again, this is one of Epstein's girls. Another one was found dead under suspicious circumstances in a hotel. And I can't find it anymore, but I remember hearing about one that fell out of a window. So there's a lot there, but you're exactly right. The bus uh, crash or whatever is crucial because we don't know what happened there. Why did say she had 4 days lived and it went off? But I wrote what I wrote about it, and the Epstein thing is, because we know that what was it? A lot of evidence, hard drives and videos and things like that were found in his safe. I think at two different places. He had a state in New York and I think in Miami Beach as well. Lost. That's their, that's JFK assassination stuff. When they say what happened, well, they were lost. But, how do you lose that? I mean, well, they lost the original moon landing tapes. So I guess they can lose anything. But I mean, how do you do that? So this is the problem that, and it's going to go away. She's going to fade away, should be forgotten. And people, like I wrote in my article, nobody thinks, and it's possible. Like Jay said, she could have killed herself. But if so, somebody pushed her off that ledge. Somebody, it was her experiences that did this, and maybe she felt so desperate, especially if her family turned against her, which happens. Have in a lot of these cases, whistleblowers and things like that, the family, because it causes such an uproar in the family. You can understand it. And you were talking about Jim Garrison, Jason, and I became good friends with Dean Andrews III, who was the son of the beatnik lawyer that was played by John Candy in the movie. And he's told me many times about what it did to their family, just being involved in that. And that when you're in these circumstances where the public, people are calling you and people maybe making fun of you at school if your father is involved or your mother's involved. So who knows what happens with Virginia Jeffrey's kids? Who knows what they went through? So they may have grown to resent her. And I assume the money that she got should have helped a little bit, maybe. But as I said, I hope she did get as much money as they say, and I hope they lead a good life. But I hope they don't forget their mother, because whatever happened, she was, because as recently as last October, right before the election, because I believe she had become a real Trump supporter. So for those that say Trump was, and she very vehemently said, I never saw Trump do anything. He didn't flirt with me. He didn't have sex with any of the girls. Whether that's true, I don't know. She started her career down this path as a bathroom attendant at Mar-a-Lago because her father worked there for Trump as a maintenance manager or something. So she got sucked in there, and I don't know if it was Trump or Epstein or whatever, liked the cut of her jib. She was a cute teenager, and that got her into trouble, unfortunately. But she had nothing but good things to say about Trump. But in October, and Jason probably knows this, she she took to Twitter, which was very rare for her. And she tweeted first of all, she again reiterated that she hoped Donald Trump would become president, how much she loved him. And then she asked Elon Musk, hey, Elon Musk, are you going to look into the Epstein? What about the Epstein files? And said, I know all about that. And she said, like, DM me for more. So did Elon Musk ever do that? I'd like to have some. See, if we had a real press, they would know that. If I can know that, they would know that. And then they would ask Elon Musk, hey, Elon, this tweet here is, Virginia Jeffrey saying a DM her. Did you ever do that? What's up with that? Did you ever talk to her? And because you had talked about the Epstein files coming out and a lot of billionaires being upset. So did you do that? I'd like to hear Donald Trump comment. She did nothing but say good things about him. Be nice if he at least said, hey, it's a terrible tragedy. Rest in peace. You went through hell or something. But I don't expect either one of that to happen. But this will be forgotten, unfortunately. But it's a shame because Virginia Jeffrey represents. I told her to say hello to, in my article to Gary Webb and Danny Casolaro and all the other, because there's so many of these people that have died as collateral damage for the corruption. And she's just another one. And, she'll be forgotten, but it's a shame. But until that corruption is rooted out, the body count's just going to continue to grow. And unfortunately, she's part of it.
Well, I think Elon Musk does a lot of DMing. That's why he has like 15 kids.
For sure,
Yeah.
that's true. I mean, for what it's worth, Ryan Dawson, who's covered this case pretty closely, he seems adamant that she, in fact, did take her own life, and that he hinted that it was probably pill overdose. But I will say, if it's true that they had those tapes or DVDs or whatever they were, hard drives that had all of the evidence of these rich and powerful people that were caught up in engaging in these criminal activities, it would make sense that if those tapes have already been obliterated somehow, through a mole or just using the FBI because you control the FBI. I don't know how they got rid of those, but if you believe that those tapes existed, well then Giuffre would be the type of person that could be a eyewitness to corroborate that, yes, in fact, I know that Epstein was doing XYZ, and these are where the tapes would have been, and this is where the cameras might have been. Like, she would have had additional details that would provide a real threat to these very influential, powerful people, and they would want her gone. So there's a lot of reason to believe that she would have been taken out. There's also a lot of reason to believe that she would have wanted to fake her own death if she is preparing to testify. So I think at this point, it's kind of a wait and see. Obviously, I hope, as unlikely as it is, that she's still alive and that this is a long con to basically allow for her to testify against these people. That sounds like pure hopium. I realize that sounds like pure trust the plan nonsense. But you never know. So we'll see.
I'd like to get James, for some of you guys who don't know, this is actually his first time on the Union of the Unwanted, but somebody I've been friends with for a very long time. Somebody who's an OG in the community. I know he's modest, so he won't say that he is, but he is an OG in the community. James Evan Pilato. Clap it up for James Evan Pilato. Thank you so much, my dear friend, for showing up. I really appreciate it. For you guys who maybe aren't familiar with his work, he's been doing Media Monarchy forever. He was one of the first guests on the Ripple Effect podcast. Him and his wingman, James Corbett, were both very nice enough, humble enough to come on the Ripple Effect podcast before I had a real platform or audience. And I've been doing amazing work since. One of my go-to shows is New World Next Week. It's still one of my favorite shows. I watch it every week. If you guys don't, you should. It's a great way of just keeping up with some current events and getting two people with tons of wisdom's take on what's going on in the world. So James, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. I super appreciate it. Hopefully coming in clear, all right. Man, the picture of Virginia, to me, the initial first thing almost looks like a special effects. Like it does look like a makeup kind of fakey thing, which then would lead me to go, oh, maybe it is the witness protection or faking the death. And thinking about Epstein as arms dealer, it's like, oh, arms dealers work. They don't really so it doesn't care about party or side. It gets all of them. Like Destro doesn't care. He'll sell weapons to Cobra and G.I. Joe.
Yeah, he doesn't care. And I mean, it's also not as if there's one side of the aisle that's prone to sexual blackmail either. So either of those two sides would have been to the benefit of both sides of the aisle politically. And I think that's evident based off of his flight logs that you've got people bipartisan that are participating in these activities. So that's what makes it so hard to get justice, is because if it was purely a one side or the other, well, then the other side would sink the other side because they want to burn them, but they can't. They don't want to burn themselves. So everybody's lying to cover it up. It's a terrible situation to be in.
I won. Yeah, it's like, why don't you play like to win the game? Why won't they say it? And Top Lobster, what, like you said, are they going to roll things out? And I'm almost like, maybe they're going to just. Is this the roll up?
It feels
of a lot of it.
It feels like a demoralization campaign more than anything. Like, because you're constantly getting this tease, right? It's like this, yeah, you're putting it in, you're taking it out. Hey, Sam, what's up? And it's like, again, I'm not trying to be like, trust the plan or be optimistic about this. As I said, when I popped on here, I'm enjoying the chaos because it's pure chaos. And if I'm not laughing at this, I'll go completely crazy because they're constantly floating. They're just dangling the carrot in front of your face. And I'm like, I don't know. Are we going to get justice? Like Clint just used the word justice and I kind of like laughed. I don't even really know what that means. Like put him in jail. Like, well, what is that?
It's an episode of Texas Ranger Walker.
Being named after Clint Eastwood, I can tell you what justice looks like. At least the justice I would like to see.
I mean, I just want to emphasize the fact that, we're sitting here and we're talking about the Epstein case and we're talking about, first of all, there is no doubt, Clint, that, you can see, and I'll show you just some of the stuff. I mean, this is what they raided. This is the safe. That's where the videos and photographs were, other than the ones that were on the hard drives that you can see right here and that were burned on these discs. And there's also a long line of binders, okay, where they blacked out just the sides because they didn't want you to see the label of the binders. And those binders both had photographs and discs in them. I will say this, again, just it's magic. Yes, stuff from that raid went missing, which is ridiculous. But, let me say this. we had the Wiener laptop. Everybody knew about the Wiener laptop. Trump
But
administration.
everyone loves a Wiener laptop.
I love a Wiener laptop. I love 5 Wiener laptops all up in my face, Sam.
I'm on a watch list because of Wiener laptops.
So
Whoa,
a lot of people don't realize that Anthony Weiner never went to jail because of any of the information on that laptop. He did go to the resort prison for like, what was it? I think he got sentenced to 15 months. He did like 12 or 13. But the only reason that he went there is one of his victims, a 15-year-old girl, actually kept the Skype conversations and photographs and video conversations between him and her. Those were all on his laptop. Whatever happened to that? There was talk, obviously, of the Clinton administration because he was married to Huma Abedin. Huma Abedin was Hillary Clinton's right-hand a woman and had access to that laptop, and apparently all the passwords were there. So we're talking about all that Clinton information, real Clinton information, not frazzle drip nonsense and chaos, right? So they had all of this stuff. They didn't do any of it. And you had the New York field office that first got it saying there was a bunch of sexual abuse of children on it. The FBI goes there.
Including by Hillary Clinton, supposedly.
I had Nate Kane on my broadcast, who is one of the FBI whistleblowers that has talked. He's basically a forensics guy. He contracts out. His superior is the one that sent the FBI in, okay, with their laptop, and basically that has different forensic tools. If anybody knows that you can take a hard drive and it's not completely wiped with like BleachBit or something, you can get stuff. They have even better tools. Now, let me just say, I don't believe BleachBit's going to help you if the feds get involved, just saying. And not only did they lose Weiner's laptop, Nate Kane's superior got in trouble because that laptop went missing. So the forensic FBI laptop that was utilized that never should have been out of any chain of custody is also missing. Let's talk Hunter Biden. Well before we had the dossier that came out with all the intel experts, Bill Barr, nobody's best friend, had access to that. They knew what was on that laptop. Literally 10 months before it even got into the press. Anybody go to jail for that? Oh, that's right. Bill Barr was Central Intelligence Agency before he even got his law degree. Then he becomes a lawyer. He becomes the youngest attorney general under the first Bush administration, decides to get into the private sector. He happens to work for a firm named Kirkland and Ellis, who represents Epstein. And while he's an attorney general the second time around, has to actually state that he might have to recuse himself from everything Epstein because he, in fact, worked for that law firm. All right? And let's not forget that Bill Barr is also named as the fixer via Iran-Contra and the Mena, Arkansas incident, where he has an alias and he is supposedly a very bad person. I mean, that high up in the Central Intelligence Agency, that high up in the first Bush administration, he covered up all sorts of crimes on not only the Hunter Biden laptop, but everything to do with our election in 2020 that was stolen in front of our eyes, ran interference there.
Yep.
So, I mean...
He didn't drain the swamp, did he?
And I'll say this.
And his father, remember, his father brought Epstein into the picture. He's hired as a math teacher.
Supposedly...
And then he became a billionaire somehow.
Supposedly his dad brought him into the Dalton School. I've heard, again, there are debunkers that say that didn't happen. It's almost irrelevant, again, because there's a direct correlation between Bill Barr and Epstein, literally, in law services. But you look at that guy, and he's literally spook central. He's not going to jail, guys. So if you're not putting Bill Barr in, who are we putting in jail? That's the whole point. You have all these criminals. We have the documentation for it. It's not just Epstein. We're talking about decade upon decade. Don't get me going about 9/11. There's a whole lot of hopium going on there too. I mean, that's where I cut my teeth. So in reality, do we need justice and accountability for those things? Yeah, if we want to restore a constitutional republic. If we don't, we can just travel down this post-truth world that edges us closer and closer to total authoritarianism with each individual crisis that we get sold on.
Absolutely.
Well, that's a good...
I'm sorry, but you're right that until people are held accountable for these things, nothing's ever going to change. We're not going to accept it. You mentioned Bill Barr. There's so many people. The Anthony Weiner laptop. What happened with that? Supposedly Hillary Clinton does something to a little kid on that. I mean, I can't. Who knows? And Hunter Biden laptop originally, when that first came out, there was talk that Hunter was raping a 10-year-old Chinese girl, and it was filmed on the laptop. And he also had his scantily clad then 14-year-old niece walking around half naked on the laptop. I don't know what happened to that. The only pictures that were ever released were, him with a crack pipe in his mouth in the bathtub, and they talk about him consorting with prostitutes. That's a whole different ballgame than that. But again, this is the problem that these people don't get called into account. Just like the Doge thing, when we were finally having an audit or something. Well, what good does that do if nothing? All the dead people that were being paid Social Security to supposedly. It's not hard to figure out. Well, they went to an address, they went to a bank account. You mean to tell me they can't figure out to ask the people, hey, how have you been getting Social Security payments for a guy that died in 1799 or whatever? How did you do this?
They lock up cartel members every day with financial crimes like that. They could easily investigate, prosecute, and incarcerate all of these people if they wanted to. They don't want to.
I don't know if they can. I don't know if they can anymore. I think we're at this chaotic moment where it doesn't matter. Like they cannot go after. People will flip out. Like the establishment will lose it. I mean, look at what happened. It just goes after that one judge, and everybody's freaking out about it. I just think that he can't. I don't know if.
Listen,
I think the best we can hope for is this stuff to come to light, like it has been. I mean, we got to celebrate all these wins. I mean, people are talking at the highest levels of government about sort of free energy, exotic weapons, geoengineering, 9/11. I mean, come on, there's some wins here. If we talked about this 5 years ago and said, in 2025, all these things that we've been talking about for decades, the NGO web, USAID, like there's some huge wins here that we never seem to want to talk about. I mean, the list goes on and on, even COVID.gov. I mean, yeah, it might be a smokescreen from the bioweapon and now it's a lab leak, but this is all stuff that we got canceled over.
Graham, I'm with you. I'm with you on the positives, but let's just also acknowledge that if you're going to acknowledge all of these things that we've been deplatformed and shadow banned for telling the truth about earlier than we were allowed to, well, where is the prosecutions for the people that were censoring us? Where are the prosecutions for the people creating bioweapons? Where are the prosecutions for the people that are trafficking kids? I know, but you're basically arguing that the system's so corrupt that you can't get justice for some crimes against humanity, which is what we're describing. And it's like,
I am, because it's global. It's global in nature. Like he's the only one pushing back against this global network. I mean, we're going to find out in Canada what happens tonight, whether Carney's in or whether Pierre's in. I mean, it could be like a blue wave, very similar to what you guys saw down in the States. And to me, it's like a signal that we're done with the liberal rules-based order, but they're not going to go away quietly. Like I mean, even everybody getting mad at RFK because he's not already going after the jab, and even Pam Bondi, everybody's flipping out on her because she's not doing it fast enough. Well, how can you do this that fast when it's going to just destroy the whole structure? I mean, look at what happened with USAID. I'm just trying to I'm not even trying to be like, I'm not trying to defend them or anything like that. I just feel like this is like a really critical point of the global powers like fighting against each other.
I agree with you, and I don't disagree that there's lots of positives. I just want to point out though that if you commit crimes against humanity and they can't be prosecuted, well then this system all has to be of it.
Totally. And that's why
that's just the reality.
Time. That's why it's such an exciting time.
Well, no, Graham, I agree with you. It's wonderful that we're finding these things out, and I cheered it on. But you had a perfect example of the USAID, which is the one thing that's been audited, as far as I know. I don't know if the audits are going to go to other places like they should, but the director of the USAID, who was a Biden holdover, was caught in an email. They have the email from her telling her employees to destroy evidence. Now, how can you not prosecute that? There's evidence of the crime with her. So, and she's not, would that shake up everything? She's kind of can be sacrificed, I think. She's not a household name. But as far as I know, she hasn't been prosecuted. And this is the problem. Trump, uproots everything like a bull in a china shop, and maybe some things get exposed. But ultimately, maybe more people know how screwed up everything is, maybe. And that's good. But if we don't held accountable, then the law means nothing. And really, all the people in prison, especially for more minor crimes, they have a right to be demanded to be released, because obviously these people are not accountable to the law.
Yeah, I just want to connect the dot too, because Jason was talking about Bill Barr. He was also the AG under Trump in 19 and 20. So that would have assisted with burying the Epstein file if they were looking into it, which they probably weren't. So I think that's another interesting dot. Bill Barr is obviously filthy, filthy dirty.
And Bill Barr was reported, although they retracted that report, to be in the prison in New York, maybe visiting with Epstein just before that first suicide attempt. Again, they retracted that story, but New York Post ran it. Let me answer something to Graham, because I don't like to be a doom and gloom guy either. And let me say this. I probably give the guy an 80+%, and by far the best president in my lifetime, hands down. However, Clint started with the cartel thing. All right, let's just act like adults here and realize that a executive order making the cartels terrorist organizations is not a real thing, and in retrospect is not a good thing. And why do I say that? Who the fuck do you think runs the cartels? Like, it's the Central Intelligence Agency. So are we once again, I bring up Iran-Contra, are we retroactively going after the criminals like Oliver North that were made the face of this thing? We're the opium dealers out in Afghanistan. Walid Karzai, when we put in his brother Hamid Karzai, was the lead opium dealer and warlord there. It's again and again and again. So that's a bad thing, because once you're a terrorist, you don't have any due process. Doesn't mean the cartel organizations are good. Doesn't mean I like what's going down in Mexico and South America. In fact, one of my favorite, if not my favorite, documentary of the last 10, 15 years is Cartel Land. It is a must watch. Everybody should go watch that documentary. Secondly, Trump has done things now through these executive orders. We all just talked about, hey, where are the prosecutions on the people that censored us during the COVID 1984 nightmare? Where's the fair play? Forget about that. He signed an executive order saying that the government wasn't going to be involved in censorship. That's imagination land as well. The government is still heavily embedded in the signature reduction program in every single major technology company, think tank, social media company. When I asked Kash Patel about the signature reduction program before he was the FBI, head of the FBI, long before this, probably like 2 years ago, he walked off my show. And he acted like I was the crazy one, okay? Because I cited a 2017 or 18 now article. It's like 5 or 6. It might not be 5 years old. So it might be 2022, where they go into the domestic program of 60,000 people in this country under fake identities with access to everything, Social Security, driver's license. They can create identities, alter them. They're embedded in these companies. They literally, on the physical level, I mean, I've probably shown it on this broadcast a dozen times, have a physical hand sleeve, a DARPA hand sleeve they can put anybody's biometrics on, and it emits human oils. All right? There's been not one trial on this. There's not been one oversight hearing whatsoever. Okay? I have to pay now $80+ to get censored on X and have my reach throttled just so I can live stream on it. Just so I can post a video more than 2 minutes and 20 seconds. YouTube, which, again, has never been a private company. First of all, Google began with DARPA and NASA starting the National Library Initiative contest. DARPA then gave Larry Page and Sergey Brin their algorithm for search. They win that contest. The National Library Initiative was to digitize all of the Earth's information. So every book out there, blah, 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 blah. Then it gets seed funded by the Central Intelligence Agency's investment firm, okay, In-Q-Tel. Tell me that's a private company. Then it openly works with the Defense Department throughout, partners with NASA on quantum computing and artificial intelligence, and claims supremacy in 2019. It has an immortality division, folks, called Calico. It is through and through a military-industrial complex company, and it gets to decide whether I'm monetized or even on YouTube. They haven't fixed that problem. That's total government control. I mean, even if I've gone in with the AIs, and even Grok will tell you how corrupt it is. So listen, Google's not, a private company. X has never been a private company. Elon Musk is the number one defense contractor out there. And if we're going to ignore the possibility that he has connections to Epstein, he's in that photo with Ghislaine Maxwell. He says it's a photo bomb. Zuckerberg claims at a Reid Hoffman party that Musk introduced him to Epstein, okay? And there were reports out there, they were never substantiated, that Epstein actually toured the SpaceX facility. And again, the SpaceX facility, we're not going to fucking Mars. We're not going to the moon. That's like retard level shit. I mean, seriously. We are weaponizing space. Starlink is the information skin. It is being utilized more than ever in Ukraine. It has the highest concentration of dishes there for the communication systems, for the Sidewinder and Ghost drones it hooks directly into. Musk got commissioned not only to launch DARPA's Blackjack program with that, but is building their new spy satellite network. All right? And so, again, all the relanding rockets and, Artemis space missions and we sent Snoopy to the moon last year, supposedly, on a rocket. Came back, too. I mean, we can't do people, but we can send Katy Perry 60 miles up and call that space, So, look, even Amazon, there's another defense Amazon doesn't make it if we really have capitalism. So listen, I don't want to go on a black pill rant here, but if we can't get baseline convictions and we don't have baseline rights where somebody can just decide now that I'm a terrorist because I'm a drug dealing cartel member when it's our government dealing the drugs, that's bad news brown. When we're signing executive orders on free speech and we're deporting people because they don't like Israel, that's bad news brown. All right. I mean, these are things that are slipping through that I don't think people really understand the repercussions of. Another thing he's floated that's extremely dangerous is the idea to criminalize burning the flag. I get it. I don't need to burn the flag. I don't necessarily like it. If it's my property, I can do whatever I want with it. Like, stop it. Now, if I destroy somebody else's property, that's fine. The guys also legitimized Guantanamo Bay, sending 30,000 immigrants there.
Yeah.
No bueno. We don't need unaccountable black sites where they've held Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and the other 9/11 defendant for 20 plus years.
I agree.
Come on.
I think this is what they do. They get you to accept compromising your principles for people you don't like, right? They did that with the January 6ers. All these people who still watch MSNBC at that time, CNN, were okay with their constitutional rights being taken away. So they accept it. And now with these MS-13 and these illegals, now they get the right to accept it. And the right just deep throats that whole thing right out the gate. It's like unbelievable how much they're okay with your constitutional rights being thrown away. And it's just, I see it on both sides. And I get screamed at by people who loved me 2 months ago. And they start listening. Oh, you didn't do that. You didn't do that. Like the big one with the wife who puts the hearts over his MS-13 knuckles tattoos. He didn't show up twice for court. Maybe that is okay. You had a chance to defend yourself then, and you didn't show up. That is a little murky to me. But everything else is like, this is back when the ACLU did actual work.
Yep.
Back when we had a simpler time. They would defend the worst of the worst. I remember Jim Norton on Opie and Anthony talking about how the ACLU has just become a pedophile defense network. Yeah. And I was like, you have to defend them, even though we all despise these people. You have to defend the worst of the worst with law, because once you sacrifice them, it's over. It's like the old fable or whatever it's called about where the lumberjack goes to the forest, goes, I'm going to use one of you as an axe. Which one? And the whole forest picks the smallest tree. And they're like, use this guy, make it out of him. And so the lumberjack takes the smallest tree, turns it into an axe, and cuts down all the rest of the trees. That's exactly what is happening with domestic terrorism. Whether they are here legally or illegally, they are within our borders. And once you sacrifice your principles on due process, you are setting it up for them to come around and use it against you. It is a classic deep state, or whatever you want to call them, playbook. It's like Once you accept COVID as a Asian disease, which they were promoting it for a while. Oh, it's just Asians get, oh, the Asians get, I don't even care. Once you accept it as that, it becomes real to you. And now the first American gets it, the first white person gets it, the first black person gets it, whoever it is. And now you sacrifice your principles.
But here's the problem. Here's the problem, though. We've already seen the right wing learn this lesson in real time. We watched it. Patriot Act. I mean, come on.
Yes,
They
exactly.
they will acknowledge the libertarians were right on this. They'll say it 20 years too late, and then the next thing that gets rolled out that they go, oh well, sure, we're deporting, we're putting people in indefinite detention in El Salvador, and without even a trial, and they're like, this is fine. F the illegal immigrants, and it's like, guys, do you not
exactly
understand
right,
this lesson?
Yeah.
How many times do you have to learn it? It's crazy.
We've gone right from terrorists where after 9/11, anybody named Muhammad was in danger. I worked with a guy that wanted to change his name. He's looking into it. I understood. And it's the same thing now. Anybody named Jose is possibly in danger, especially if he's got a lot of tattoos. And nobody's talked about deporting illegals more than I have. And I think Trump has dropped the ball on it. He has not deported anywhere near with what he appears to be deporting some of the wrong ones. Legal people here legally, but you can't have, his Justice Department recently said they okayed, since we have these no-knock raids and SWAT teams and everything, this is bound to happen, but they're going to do the same thing they did with terrorists. If a suspected gang member is living in a property, they don't have to have a warrant.
I hope you enjoyed that first part of the Union of the Unwanted panel. Always a great time. And remember, folks, it is not about left or right. It is always about right and wrong. We will see you on the flip side.